Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, the master of the deceptive arts, and I return to you once again as the unbounded, unbonded, uncommitted voice of the vasectomites. And today, I wanted to tell you about a very interesting encounter that I had with a young bachelor, a very young man who's pretty much just entered into adulthood, and his entire life experience is that of a child. Now, this young bachelor, I believe, is probably gonna bend the knee. I think he's gonna grow up to be a future knee bender. I don't foresee that he will be a vasectomite. If he doesn't bend the knee imminently, he'll bend the knee soon thereafter. And after our discussion about his long absence from his duties, he told me, well, rather during our discussion about his long absence, he told me that he was afflicted with a severe, what he described as a back problem. He wasn't very specific in terms of medical diagnosis and that kind of thing. But he told me that he had suffered with this problem pretty much since childhood, at least since just after puberty, 13, 14 years old. Apparently, his ailment affected him in such a way that he couldn't sit upright for long periods of time without enduring like horrific pain and causing more injury and further damage to his already sensitive and fragile spine. And in that moment, I asked myself, I wonder how many people are going through these types of issues where you wouldn't know there was an issue until they were absent. Like there are people that you don't see all day every day at work. You see them from time to time, maybe once every other day here and there, and you'll see them like at the meetings. They'll always be at the meetings. But then like when they're absent, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and those regular intervals. So if you're used to seeing them once every other day, like if you don't see them once every other day and the next cycle comes and then the week ends and then you come back again the next week and you still don't see them, that lets me know that there's something going on. Right? If I'm used to seeing you and then suddenly I don't see you, or if I'm supposed to see you and I don't see you, it tells me that something is going on. And then I found out that this guy is I mean, it's hard to say what his future is, but it's definitely not going to be a future of comfort. It's going to be a future of pain. If you cannot sit as a human being, I mean, that's a problem. In today's world, it means that you cannot work. And if he could not sit and work, the chances are he's not going to be able to stand and work either, right? But in that moment, I was readjusted into remembering two things that I know I should always keep in mind and remember. One of those was that most people are new to Earth. So most people have pretty much just arrived to this planet, and I'd like to say, for all you young people, allow me to extend a warm welcome to you, as well as to all the people on the internet and indeed around the world. You see, the second thing I realized, other than that people are new all the way around the world, is that people have problems. People really have lots and lots of problems. One thing that I enjoyed in the past was listening to people tell me about their lives. Your background, where you come from, what do you do? But they'll give you like superficial information. I'm from this town, I live here, I traveled here, and I do this job. But then, as time goes and you dive deeper into them, you are going to hear the most insane stories. I mean, people have been through just some of the craziest things that you can imagine, and they won't let you know. They won't let you know until either it comes up and they want to relate, or really you catch them in a moment where they they are open enough to share. But you have to catch them in those moments, right? But most people will just keep what happened to them all to themselves, you know, and I'm going to tell you that people's lives will shock you. People's lives will shock you. What people have been through and what they have experienced will absolutely shock you. They start telling you about their addictions, their bad habits, their violent crimes, all kinds of things. That could come up. I'm thinking of several stories. I'm thinking of a guy who decided to admit that he had a drug problem at work. It was like, people were introducing themselves, and I was also very superficial. I just spoke about my professional career. I didn't really talk about, anything private. This guy decided to talk about everything private and nothing professional, right? And then he devours that he had a drug problem and that kind of thing, and that was problematic. I wouldn't have said anything about it, especially if I had overcome it in a group of people that I didn't really know that well. I would have just let that all go. But he did not. He did not, right? And and most people are like that. There's another guy who was actually a hero, and he actually saved someone from perishing, in just the most. I'm not going to give you the details there. I mean, those details were a little bit extreme. But he actually saved somebody's life in just the craziest way. Just the craziest way in the craziest of times. And these are the kinds of things that come to my mind. And I just want you to know that people are not who they appear to be. When you see them at work, when you meet them at school, when you encounter them in a public setting where they're either being watched or they're being recorded. People are not. They're absolutely not who they seem to be. People for the most part are willingly or unwillingly, wittingly or unwittingly practitioners of the deceptive arts. Not in the entirety that we do it, but in the sense that they are resolved and strengthened by their own secrets. But the secrets really aren't secrets, right? What they're hiding are the things that we know that happen to everyone. They just don't want you to know that it's also happening to them too. What they're really hiding is how hard life is, how challenging life is, and really how bad life is, especially people with kids. It's like every ever so often, because of the internet, like you'll go on places like various platforms where I was kicked off. Some of them, the picture platform. I'm gonna call it the picture platform because they kicked me off, you know. But the picture platform with the camera logo, or had a camera logo. The picture, I'm upset that they kicked me off. By the way, I felt that was an injustice. I mean, yes, I was just speaking my mind, but obviously, freedom of speech is not a thing online. Internet platforms are not countries, right? So, freedom of speech doesn't need to exist, but still, I miss that account. I miss my account, That's really what I'm trying to say. But but also people live on these platforms, right? And they want to show you how good it really is. They want to show you how they're going out and traveling and doing these things. But then, every ever so often you'll see a video of like a parent struggling with a child, or a child hitting the parent or something, and the parent can't do anything to discipline the child. There was this lady who was trying to get in some exercise. She was doing like sit-ups or something, and then her kid picked up a dumbbell, like a weight dumbbell. Like it was a lady's dumbbell, but it wasn't the 2 kilograms. I think it was like a 3 or 4 kilogram. It wasn't a fiver. It wasn't a fiver. It was a 3 or 4 kilogram. And the kid threw it at the mother's mouth. Now she's lying on the floor, and he just threw it. And the gravity of the thing just flung it straight at her face. I don't know what happened after that. I really don't know what happened after that. I just feel like she may have probably broke a tooth or something. Because that kid wasn't standing right above her. But even if he was standing right above her and he just let go, he didn't just let go. He flung it, so he gave it some height first and some momentum, and it came crashing down on her face. I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine. And these are the type of things that are becoming more and more prevalent online. you know, People are really showing, especially the new generation. Remember, there's a generation of people that really grew up in a time with smartphones. So they really chronicle their experiences, especially the kind of things that keep happening over and over. So if they can anticipate like a particular type of behavior, right? They can always be ready to see, okay, here they start again, here they start again. This lady was trying to record herself exercising, which is a strange thing for me. I don't get that, but okay. And that's when it happened. And also, it's like people have cameras, on hand all the time. So when an incident starts, they can just pull out the camera and start recording and let the incident plays out, or play out. If it continues, they'll continue recording, and if it ends, they'll just stop recording. But like, this is what I always say: just assume that you're being recorded all the time. Just assume that you're being recorded all the time. And these are the horrific things that you're seeing. It is bad. It is bad physically in terms of like injuries, like I just described. People are bad in terms of illness. There's always an illness in the family, in every family. Addiction, weight problems, eating problems, somebody else that I know, their son passed away with no details. I'm sure the families have details, but it could have been like something like a vehicle accident or something. But this is a person who I know very well doesn't consume any illicit substances or alcohol. So that's completely out of the question. It could have been, but we really don't know. Nobody really knows. So those kinds of things, just on a normal random day, your life gets flipped upside down, you know? So these are the things that happen, you know? Mentally, I can only imagine how bad it is mentally for people just dealing with the stress. Like, now you're grieving. Now everybody around you is grieving. And it's like, the weight of grief, man. It is so, so heavy. And you don't know when you're going to come out of grief, especially this type of grief. So if you lose a family member, like a child or something, you really don't know how long you're going to come out of that grief or how long it's going to take other family members to come out of that grief. So if you come out of that grief first, people could judge you. But if you come out of it too late, people could always say, man, listen, it was bad, but there comes a time, like, you just don't know how grief is going to affect you mentally, spiritually. But what people really don't want you to know, what they really don't want you to know, is how bad it is financially. People don't want other people to know how much the economy is crushing them, especially people with kids. Like, you cannot afford to be poor and have kids. So, like, yeah, you cannot afford to be poor and have kids. And a lot of people don't have money, who don't have money have kids. But really, that's not the move to make. I mean, I don't know how to describe it any clearer than that. This economy is crushing people, especially people with kids. And I tried to explain that the prices are always going to keep rising. But you're expecting them to rise every 6 months, every 8 months, every year. There'll be a tick up in price once a year. The prices are going up every day. Even if they don't change the amount on the amount on the item itself, but of course they'll raise the item. What they will do, or rather what will happen, is that inflation will kick in, right? So, and inflation is always in play. Always in play. There's always inflation, right? So one way or another, things are gonna be more expensive tomorrow. While wages really haven't gone up in decades, and for all we know, wages may never go up. I cannot imagine a situation where someone is inclined to start paying people more salaries. You know, keep this in mind, that when you wake up tomorrow, when you wake up next week, next month, eventually by the end of the year, everything will cost more. But by tomorrow, everything will cost at least 0.5% more, right? 0.5%. And it's going to keep going up 0.5%, 0.5%, 0.5%, 0.5%. And eventually by the end of the year, you're like, wait a minute, the prices have doubled. Yeah, that's what 0.5% increase a day does. It's not 0.5% adding, it's 0.5% increase. So if something is like, $5, tomorrow, or rather, let's say $100, tomorrow it'll cost $100.50. Now you think the next day it'll cost $101, but it won't. It'll cost $101.10. Right? So it's not just a 50, and then the next day you think it'll be, maybe $102.20, but it won't. It'll be 165. I mean, $102.65. That 5% is in that 0.5%, that 0.5% increase. That's an increase on the new number. So it's an increase and then there's a new number. That new total, 5% of that new total goes up. Then you have a new total. So it grows up exponentially. It grows quickly. And people who have kids who are constantly shopping, let me tell you something, people go shopping every day. People go shopping every day. There are days sometimes where I'll go to the shop, like, but you must remember, I'm a hunter gatherer type. So if I want something to eat, I have to go get up and go get it. I'm not ordering food. At least let me burn the calories, right? So I'm gonna get up and get in my car, put on clothes, drive off to wherever I need to drive to, order it while I'm standing there, have it made, get back in the car, come home, and then eat it when I get home. I will make that effort and I will spend that time, right? I will absolutely then go spend that money because at least then I get to burn those calories. But otherwise, people may just want to order things, right? But in truth, people just don't want you to know how poor they are, how poor they really are, and and how much they lied about how poor they are, right? So people are like really poor, and then they lie about how poor they are, and effectively, what's happening is that people are maintaining the lie of wealth, and it is expensive to maintain a lie of wealth. You know, it just means that you're paying interest on everything. That's just what you need to understand, that instead of saying that people are poor, instead of saying, hey man, listen, I'm in poverty and I've been living in poverty, what they'll say is that they're struggling with debt. You see, this is the new word for poor. It's debt. Not we are destitute or something. No, no, no. They'll tell you, we have debt. My husband is struggling with debt. Our family is struggling with debt. In other words, they are poor. Debt means that you ran out of your own money a long time ago. Then what happened is you then needed to borrow money from other people. So things kept getting worse. Like things were really bad, and then they kept getting worse to the point where you just needed other people's money to keep you alive. That to me says you are poor. And one of the signs of this poverty is that you have what they call a credit score. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know what a credit score is, and I'm not inclined to go look it up. I'm a person who looks up all kinds of things, but I have no interest in looking up what a credit score is, or how it's calculated, or what your is, or what even mine is. As far as I'm concerned, my credit score is zero, and I don't even know what that means. I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't know if my credit score was 10,000 or my credit score was zero. I have no idea what those numbers mean. And if they just mean that I get to borrow money, then I really don't care. I'm really not trying to borrow nobody's money. I do have cards, of course, everyone does. But these aren't cards because I don't have money. These are cards in case the card with the money doesn't work. That's really what I think. I'm thinking like in a situation of, what if I go somewhere? It happened one time. I was in a country in South America where I thought, you know what, I don't want to carry cash on the flight. That's reckless. I'll withdraw money when I get to that country and take the chance of paying the fees and all that. Because I thought to myself, I'm just going to take out money and then convert it anyway and then get charged. I'm going to get charged for taking out money in my country. Then I'm going to get charged for converting that money anyway. Then I'm going to travel, spend that money recklessly just for me to try and convert the change back and be charged for it anyway, when I could just be there and spend the money that I need and be charged recklessly either way, right? So it's just bank charges. It's just about managing the bank charges. And in truth, there's no way of managing those either. So But that's what I do. I keep the card just in case the card that's got the money doesn't work. But most people, they need that card to survive. Without that credit card, the family starves. And all I know is that credit is bad. Credit is bad because you pay interest, and interest is bad. Interest is bad when you are the one paying it, but I have to be honest, it's absolutely excellent when you're the one earning it. When you're earning, there's nothing better than earning interest. You want to know how to put a situation where you are making a ton of money but aren't, working? Interest. Interest. You borrow people money, they pay you back with interest. And really, the way that interest grows, you could triple your money with no problems. Really, you could triple your money, you know. But if you are the one paying interest, or prepared to suffer, you can prepare to suffer. I'm really not one for borrowing money at all, not even for emergencies. Because you have to just pay, because you always have to pay back, and then you pay back that interest. Now imagine being poor, in debt, unhealthy, uneducated, low skills, owing cash, owing credit, owing cards, loans, behind or low on every bill, so you're behind, or you owe on every bill, every service, every service has been disconnected, from water to lights to heat to whatever, air conditioning, all gone, right? And mind you, winter is approaching fast. Imagine winter is approaching fast. And in all of this debacle, there you are trying to raise kids. There you are trying to raise kids. Now imagine when the kids also have physical, mental, financial issues. They also want to live up to certain standards that they cannot sustain. And then they're going to have kids that want the same things and the same problems, and the same problems are going to persist, right? Along with all the parents' issues stemming from their unresolved childhood trauma, to all the bad decisions that they made as a young adult, and the consequences that they had to live out of those bad decisions, and the shock that they experienced from the consequence. Imagine having been incarcerated, and then now you're trying to get over that. You're trying to get over spending years of your life, your best years of your life, in prison. That kind of nonsense, man. And it's like, and one of those bad decisions was having them kids. Along with all the other problems, then you brought other people into your issues, and you had kids. Instead of freezing your sperm and getting your vasectomy, guys, go freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. All right, protect yourself, protect your seed, protect your solitude, and forget these family problems. Because now what happens is you have a house full of people that are anxious, that are frustrated, that are dissatisfied financially, emotionally, spiritually. They all desire more, They all desire more without earning more. They want to sort of have the money earn itself. They want to pay higher prices, for high end things, but they want to pay low prices for the things that they actually need. And this is the kind of dynamic that you're living with: people with no money, wanting to spend a lot of money on useless things, but wanting to spend no money on the things that they need, like bills and services. And imagine different generations of this. Parents in their 40s and 50s, grandparents in their 50s and 60s, kids in their teens, some still prepubescent. And then there you are with the toddlers, the twins, you know, All these different generations going on from grandparents all the way to twin toddlers. All of them just going around and around in emotional circles, financial circles, in and out of relationships, teenage pregnancies, all kinds of things, all kinds of things. The list is too long to me, to actually mention and to go through. And these romance wars, that's what I call them, the romance wars and these family conflicts in the dark dimension. They can go on for years with no resolution and no defined outcome. And all the while, you cannot justify the resources, the knowledge, the money, the skills, the efficacy, the patience that you are investing in any of these people. All the while, you're just pumping money into the household, trying to maintain it. And if you ask me, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. For 1,550 US dollars for the vasectomy and around roughly 50 US dollars, more, you can freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy and avoid all the issues that we're going to look at today. And you must understand that there's children involved. So if the parents are poor, that means the kids are poor. That means the kids are not doing all right also. And these are the problems that people are facing currently. I mean, people have always had problems, but yeah, like it's just heightened. It just seems to be quite heightened of recent times. So, for all of you wannabe providers and protectors out there, I hope you can take heed in today's edification. 8 common causes of family conflict. Common, regular, normal, happen all the time. Something that is typical of a person's characteristics, right? Or typical of this dynamic family dynamic. These are common causes of family conflict. This article was written by Laura Angus Maddox. It was published, I'm not sure when it was published, but I can tell you it was published initially. But I can tell you with certainty that it was updated quite recently on the 27th of August in the year 2025. It comes from the very helpful website, betterhelp.com. I receive a lot of information from here. You may have seen a video where they've been featured before. That's www.betterhelp.com. They have very informative information there on various meaningful social problems, as well as how to resolve those problems. But for today, we have an excerpt, not the full article. The full article is very thick, long, and meaty. Forgive my metaphor there. And I just didn't think that we would have the time or the stomach to take it all down. So I just took how would you say, an excerpt, a meaningful chunk out of that, and really left out the additional extras that I didn't think were necessary. However, the information is broken up in terms of an introduction, which we skipped. Then it is the part that we are going to read here, and then the bottom section offers problems and resolutions. It is very meaningful, but it won't be applicable for our practical uses here today. Of course, you are more than welcome to read the full article for yourself. There is the link to the article itself, and I know the people at betterhelp.com will be more than happy to receive you, as well as they will appreciate all of your engagement and participation. Laura Angus Maddox writes, if you've recognized that your family is experiencing conflict, identifying the root cause can be the next step towards managing it. Although many people are already aware of what's causing the core conflict within their family, it can be helpful to see some of the most common ones listed out, both to provide insight into how multiple issues can overlap and interact, and to take comfort in knowing that you're not alone in your experiences, or in your experience rather, of family problems. I'm going to tell you that you are alone with your issues of family problems. No one is going to come and resolve your family issues for you. The only people that are going to participate is, quite frankly, other family members. It says see below for some of the most common causes of family stress or discord. Oh, those are such meaningful words. Stress and discord. Yeah, that means you guys aren't getting along. You guys aren't really getting along. Number one is parental relationship problems. Yes, the child parent dynamic, where the child wants a life that's larger than life. They want to be and feel excited every single day, and the parents know that this is simply just not realistic. So life just becomes about managing your children's expectations, your children's wild expectations. They will ask for the most ridiculous things, and when you refuse them, they'll take that as a personal insult. They'll go around. I mean, kids will demand a dog, and if you don't buy them the dog, they'll break your TV, and then turn around and then make you want to buy a new TV. I mean, these kids are outrageous. And the problem is also that the parents are not really suited to be parents. Like, you shouldn't have had these kids. Like, you really shouldn't have had these kids. There's a lot of people that have kids that should not be parents. And you know that you shouldn't be a parent. That's the ironic part of it. Like, you knew you shouldn't have been a parent. But you thought you were doing the right thing or the smart thing or the best thing. But no. The best thing you could have done was not participate and ruin everybody's lives. Parents who are constantly fighting, whether they're still together or separated or divorced, can cause tension for all members, especially children. One parent who is in an unhealthy relationship with someone can also be distressing for other members to observe. Oh, there's a lot to unpack here. So on the one hand, parents are fighting, then they get divorced. Very stressful. Both situations very stressful. Then what happens is one of the parents starts, a new relationship with somebody new, and then that relationship goes bad and starts becoming stressful. Now everyone is affected by that new relationship dynamic. Everybody's worried, everybody's stressed, everybody's upset. It's just like stress all the way, all the way. And this can go on for years and years and years. The stress of the marriage and the fighting, a decade. The stress of fighting over the divorce, 5 years. Then the stress of fighting over alimony, child support, 15 years, 20 years of this no man. It's just too much. It's just too much. There's just so much to unpack when it comes to family problems. In fact, you'll ask yourself, where are the good days? Where are all the good days? Even if you end up breaking up the family and try to start a new family, you just end up with the same problems and the same dynamic anyway. You're just walking your way into failure. This is very troubling. These are very troubling issues. It's not just, the family, but it's also like the other people that you bring into the family that could just affect the whole situation for everyone. Like, people will be affected just by being involved directly, and people could be affected just by knowing that there's an unhealthy dynamic going on with you. The second concern is financial concerns. I'm surprised that financial concerns is only coming in at number 2. I would have thought financial concerns would be the first problem. Like, when your kids are hungry to eat, cold in the winter, too hot in the summer, they're getting sick, they're splitting diseases. You need money to get them treated. You need money to secure your home. You need money to, make it hot when it's cold or cold when it's hot. And all that stuff is going to be expensive. Not to mention the school. Everything costs money. I could go on forever just listing all the things that children need. And they don't just need one of everything. And I know you're thinking, well, we could just get 4 or 5. They'll wear it over a week. No, it doesn't work like that. They don't need 1 or 2 or 7 for the week. They need 14 of everything. Those kids need to be able to go 2 weeks to a month without being able to take laundry or to do laundry. They need to be like, man, it's been a month, I need to do laundry. And still be dressed in clean clothes. This is the reality of it. This is the reality of it. Like when it comes to things like clothes, you need about 40. Like if you want like shirts and trousers, you don't need 3 or 4 of these things. You need like 14 of them, to live in a productive way. So if I'm on vacation for, say, 5 days, I'm bringing 10 days worth of clothes, something that I can wear, take it off, throw it over there, wear something else, go do whatever I need to do, come back, take that off, go somewhere else, and just keep going without the need to stop and having to do laundry, right? So, like, you're going to need a lot of stuff. You're really going to need a lot of stuff, and that stuff is only going to cost you money. Many families face serious challenges in meeting the basic needs of all members. Yes, absolutely true. To meet the needs of every single member of the family on a consistent basis, to me, seems like an impossible task. It is a completely impossible thing to do. I don't know how you're going to feel that. I don't know how you're going to. And by the way, this is all going to fall on the man. Like, whatever happens, it's just going to fall on you. The wife is just going to be like, okay, I'm the wife. You go get the money. And if you're having problems, forget about it. You're having problems at work, forget about it. Can't make sales? I don't even know what to tell you. Whether it's because of systematic issues, job loss, inability to work, uncontrolled spending, gambling problems, or other reasons, stress and conflict related to money and bills is very common. I cannot tell you. I think the biggest cause of stress in humanity has to be money. It has to be right at the top with family issues. It really has to be given its place. Like, man, money is a big deal. If there's no money at home, it's so bad. It is so bad. Like people want to buy things all the time. All kinds of things. There was a time where you had to buy things that would last you forever and ever. And that would only be because you couldn't just order them online on Amazon. But yeah, man, that was a long time ago. And financial problems, to be able to meet all the needs of every single member, no way. Not with online shopping. Not with online shopping, a place where you can get everything online. Whether it's because, I think I read this, controlled spending, bills. Let's move on to health conditions. Health conditions is what brought this issue up in the forefront of my mind. And I thought to myself, man, what if I had a child who had a severe health condition? Now, if you're a child, happens to be listening to the Ancient Ones video, and you have a serious healthcare condition, I hope you get well soon. And, I hope you pick up your strength and that everything goes well. But for your parents, you must understand these are nothing but huge, tremendous expenses. They're kids there are kids who are going to spend their entire lives on medical insurance because they want to stay alive. And the parents are going to have to be the ones to pay that. Like, unhealthy kids are such a problem. Unhealthy kids are a serious problem in every way. Like the health condition takes over your life. And you've heard people define themselves, like parents will define themselves by the child's suffering. My name is the ancient one. They might say, I'm the father of the new one, the modern one, and or rather, I am the father of the child who is no longer with us, the modern one, right? And so I'm not just the ancient one, I'm the father of the child who is no longer with us. I'm the father of the child who has a disability or an illness. It encompasses every part of your life. Every single aorta of your life is going to be lived through. Even how you define yourself is going to be lived through the medical condition and the disability itself. You know, when one or more family members is experiencing a health challenge, I don't even know what to say. If you have a family of 2 or 3 people and they're all sick and they all need therapy and they all need treatment, I don't know how you're going to pull that off. It's going to be very expensive. You're probably just going to have to put them all in that medical insurance. Everyone in that medical insurance, and then you're going to pay. You hear me? If you think you've paid for medical insurance, try to put your wife and your kids on there. There are men who have their own medical insurance and it's cheap enough and they just don't want to put their families on there because they know then those premiums, those monthly premiums are going to shoot through the roof because suddenly now everyone has every kind of illness, from a chronic physical condition to a mental illness to a disability. It can affect others. Stress and worry, as well as providing care and paying medical bills, can sometimes result in tension and other family issues. Tension. They call it tension and family issues. I say poverty and hunger. Those are the words that I would use. You are gonna go bankrupt paying medical bills. Because what they'll do is, and they're so good at it. What they'll do is the insurance companies, they will take your money and then charge you more in terms of copay and that kind of thing. So they'll take your money, they'll make an arrangement with the doctor, they'll pay you to the doctor a little bit, and then the doctor will say, man, they only paid a little bit. You got to pay the whole bill. You got to pay the whole bill. And then now, not only are you, down because you put 5, 10 people on medical insurance, you now have a copay. So you got to keep paying. This is the problem I have with these so-called insurance, right? Because the payment structure doesn't make sense to me. You just keep paying and keep paying and keep paying, right? Insurance and interest, man, you gotta be careful with that. You gotta be careful with that. But then there's the issue of what happens when you don't have medical insurance and your kid is perpetually sick. Next up is toxic behaviors between family members. I mean, is there any other kind of behavior between family members, especially if one is successful and the other one is not? They just rub it into each other. Like children are naturally very competitive. Like they want to be the best in the class, the best in the family, the this, the that. So, and that's going to bring up a lot of toxic behavior between siblings, and then not to mention, like that goes up all the way until adulthood. So, you want to start a family, have kids, then your siblings want to start a family and have kids. Want to start a business, your siblings still wants to start a business. And don't let your younger siblings become richer than you. Do not let your younger siblings ever become richer than you. They're going to rub it in your face. And not like in a literal way. And you're going to feel hard done by that. Like they're going to be like, you're still older than me, but I'm richer than you. They're going to let you have it. That's for sure. Sometimes stress or dysfunction in a family can be traced primarily to toxic behaviors of one member. Oh, that's true. So you can have one member who really doesn't care about anything and ruins it for everyone. But then there's also a dynamic where a situation where everyone in the family is alright and there's only one guy that is okay, but everyone else is not alright in the family. So you get a situation where there's one person that's the problem, and then you get a situation where one person is not the problem, with which in fact means both of them are a problem. They're both a problem. For example, someone who frequently engages in manipulation tactics, dishonesty, sabotaging, or scapegoating. Okay, scapegoating and sabotage, I'll put those together. Or similar behaviors can be extremely difficult or even dangerous to live with. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, this can be very dangerous for you. Somebody is always looking for a reason for you to take the blame. You don't know what they'll do in the name of that scheme, that diabolical scheme. These can be personality traits or signs of certain personality disorder. I think a lot of people have personality disorder. I think a lot of people have personality disorder, but you're not expecting it. You don't want someone like to say, "Oh, the ancient one, my big brother, he suffers from I don't know what, you know, personality disorder." You don't always hear people talk about that, but it exists in a major way. I cannot tell you about sibling rivalry so much. Maybe I'll do a video on it. Like these issues could be unpacked all by themselves. And as I keep going through it, I'm trying to sort of keep the momentum flowing. But man, there are things that I can really say about toxic behaviors in families. Like there are families that have sent their own family members to prison and feel absolutely nothing about that process. Like, where's the love in these families, man? There's no love. There's no love in these families. It it could be bad all the way around. Boys and girls, with the boys, even with the girls, imagine one of your siblings sleeps with your counterpart in a bender. Like, what kind of relationship remains after something like that? And it can go on and on, competing with marks, competing with money, competing for counterparts and knee benders. I mean, I could go on and on with civil rivalries and the dimensions of that. But imagine living in a situation where both the kids are just competitive. They're just hyper competitive and they break things. They'll compete on who can break the most things. They'll compete on who's the strongest, who's the smartest. You know, they'll compete on anything and you have to keep paying those bills. Man, just freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Just freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, and avoid these things. And for goodness sake, don't get married. You know, don't get married. Then you have number 5, unaddressed trauma related to family issues. Now you got to deal with the trauma. I mean, this is too much. For me, this is too much. I'm already exhausted. Really, I can feel myself getting exhausted just thinking about dealing with these things. Then you got 5 kids and they all got these problems. 4 kids all with these problems and the parents. No, man. It's too much for me. It's too much for me. I'm better off living the vasectomy life all by myself, even if I'm the last vasectomy alive. I want you to know I'm going to go out with pride rather than having to face unresolved issues. It says in most cases, trauma that has not been effectively and healthily recognized, processed, and healed will cause issues in a person's life in some way. Indeed, it will. It will. I don't really know how one heals from trauma. Like, think about it. If somebody hits you or slaps you, right? The pain might go away, but the insult, just knowing that somebody came and slapped you, it's always going to be there. How do you heal from that mentally? You can't really go back in time and unslap yourself. You know what I mean? This is why time travel is banned. People will go back in time, unslap themselves, and then slap somebody else. And then say, oh, that it was that slap that changed my life. You know? No, no, that's not the case. You know? That's not the case. A, a family unit that experiences trauma together, such as war, a natural disaster, or a sudden death of a loved one, or vicariously through one member may experience conflict that arises as a result of this unaddressed pain. This can be especially true for various forms of intergenerational trauma. Oh, where do I even begin? You know, when families face the same trauma, like a death in the family, which is what I described, and everyone is grieving, like, it's so much. It is so heavy. Like, family dynamics are just the heaviest, man. I don't even know how to unpack this, you know, or where everybody like goes through, let's say, like, I'm trying to think of a real life example, and I have one. I knew a guy who was involved in a recent international conflict, not directly, but indirectly. He had had a home. He was from that country. He had had a home in that country, and I met him somewhere else. And while we were together, for various reasons, work, business, pleasure, that kind of thing, he discovered that his house was bombarded. Well, the entire neighborhood was bombarded during the conflict. They told him we all got bombarded and all our houses are gone, including yours. Like, they're all just gone. And the only thing that remains now is rubble that needs to be cleaned up after the war. But otherwise, your house, your family, home. In fact, like I said, it was the whole neighborhood that was destroyed. The roads, the foundations, the pipes for the water and the sewage, all completely gone. Now his whole family is stuck somewhere else while they have no home to go to. And they have to go somewhere. It's time to go and you can't go home. Can you imagine that? As a bachelor, I'd probably just stay where I was or move on somewhere else and find a new way to live and different dynamics. But if you have kids and you want to tell the kids they bombarded our home, everything we have, we know, we love, all the stuff that you're missing is all gone. Now, how do you process that? I mean, there's just so much there, man. Then there are just so many different types. You know, when there's one person that has substance abuse and everybody rallies around that person, and then it gets wild. Like, the person who has a substance has an affair with one of the siblings, lovers, right? And then they never date. They have it one time, and then they never see that person again or whatever. And that conflict is still there, even if that person stops doing illicit substances. That betrayal will never go away. There's just so much to unpack in each and every one of these things. Really, it's a lot and it's heavy. Like, each one of these deserves its own moment. Then you have unhealthy expectations. I'm going to assume that this is from the parents to the children and vice versa. But when the parents want their kids to be A plus students, when they themselves, the parents, were not A plus students, right? This is the irony of this. But let's see what unhealthy expectations really are. Family members who feel pressured to conform to unhealthy and or impossible standards may experience negative effects as a result. For example, a household where each child is expected to perform perfectly in school, never express negative emotions, or never bring up a conflict can eventually cause them to disengage or lash out. Oh man, I don't even know what to say. I think of my own academic background. where I know my parents pretty much bankrupted themselves trying to put me through university. I don't know how I could have otherwise justified that investment other than failing, right? But I can only imagine if I did. Can you imagine putting in all your money, all your resources, everything that you have available into this person and then they still fail? They still fail. You're obviously going to lash out at them. You're not going to be like proud, oh, my son, at least you did your best. That won't be good enough. It's going to be problematic. It's genuinely going to be problematic. Because you expect so much. You expect this child to be a doctor, but they're not good at math, science, or, biology. There are a lot of parents there are a lot of parents who expect a lot from their kids, and even though that expectation is not justified, and they believe that they have the right to expect all these things from these kids because they've invested everything they had, all the money in the world. They go to work every day and still have 0 cents in their bank account, and they are killing it at work you know, and they want to invest in their kids to make sure that their kids come out right, and they're putting in everything, extra time, overtime, every time. And every time their kid fails, that money is never coming back. That's money down the drain. Not just paying the academic stuff, the tuition, but also keeping this person alive while they go to school every day and do absolutely nothing. Hey, it's what can I tell you? What can I really tell you? You should just get a vasectomy, freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. That way, you never have to worry about number six, too much or little time together. Families that have to live in close quarters, oh, yes, of course. Another situation, you ever seen like a situation where a single mama, a mama bear, a single mother, right? She she lives in a small 1 bedroom, not 1 bedroom, one lounge, just one room with a bed inside, and she'll live there with two, three kids. Right? She'll absolutely live there with two, three kids, while the father's nowhere to be found. You know, and and you'll be like, how do you live like this? Three people, one bathroom, two mother, three, four kids. How do you live like this? Terribly. That's how they do it. Terribly. And it's very frustrating because they'll live in like very close quarters. Like they see each other all day, every day. In order for you not to see this person's face or deal with them, you have to go outside, and face the elements of nature. But living in close quarters, that's a bad idea. And spend most of or all their time together are liable to face conflicts that many learned during the C-19. You can flip those numbers around, not the letter, lockdown. So they found out that people who spend a lot of time together are going to fight, ironically. Ironically. So the longer you spend with somebody, the more likely you are going to have a conflict. This is very insightful for me as a bachelor. So I understand now the best way to keep the peace is just to leave, not to play the game, right? It says, on the other hand, families that are so busy or live so far apart that they really get to spend quality time together, could also end up experiencing conflict. Yes, people complain, oh, you're never home, you never do this, you never do that. And then you do come home, then all they want is for you to leave. I've experienced that problem myself, that little bit of irony, you know. So it's like If you are there, it's a problem. But then if you're not there, it's also a problem. And then you try to be there just the right amount of time, which is really, there's no calculation and there's no science for this. Poor or non existent communication is the last one on this list. What is a tremendous list? What is a tremendous list, or and then demonstration of the dynamics that people are facing in these family problems. Like there is a lot going on there. I'll give example of one thing and then think of another example and another example where I know that all of this is true. After having read all this, and the examples that I gave you, these examples are all from real life. To me, this sounds absolutely true. Healthy, honest, frequent communication is widely considered to be the foundation of healthy relationships of all types, is the first sentence of number 7, poor and non existent communication. Families without it are likely to experience a recurrent. In other words, it's happening again and again and again, quite currently. So it could have happened yesterday, and you're concerned it'll happen today. Um, Recurrent conflict as issues that arise may not be properly addressed, and members may not feel heard. Um, this sounds like a counterpart all the way through, trying to be heard. I had a counterpart who told me that she wasn't feeling heard. When I was hearing her just fine, I was listening to her just fine. I'm not even sure what that means. Like acknowledge. I think it means like to be acknowledged and to be it's not approval. I think there's a word that I'm looking for, to be liked, right? You want people. I think it is approval, right? You want people to approve of you and say that you are a wonderful person, but nature doesn't work like this, right? Nature doesn't really work like this. Like people don't always communicate so effectively, so easily. You could think that somebody is ignoring you, especially if you got like boys and girls in the house. Let's say like a girl sitting watching TV, a guy will just come and sit down next to her and start watching TV, and she's gonna want a whole ritual of greetings and all kinds of things. And if you just ignore her, because okay, you're like, yeah, okay, cool, I get it. Now she's not being heard. Now it's a violation, it's a problem. you know it's like when somebody like misses a test and then they say, well, I'm here now. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You cannot be heard, because you cannot feel heard and understood just because you are speaking. You need to say something not nonsensical. You need to start not say something nonsensical. Mm? you know. But this has been a tremendous list. Really, I appreciated every bit of information that we got here. And what I'd like to say is before you go start a family, think about exactly what you're getting yourself into. Think about exactly what you're getting yourself into. And this is just a fraction, a tiny fraction. It's just a small list that after going through it gave me a bit of a headache, and I'm a little bit tired. And it's not from like being overexerted or overworking. It's simply that this list is just so heavy with the type of realistic problems, and then add children to join you in those problems. It's just not the thing to do. It's really not the thing to do. The thing to do is to freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy and avoid having family problems, especially if you are the provider and the protector in that family, because all of this is going to land on you. One way or another, they're going to find a way to land all the stuff right at your table, or just dump it right in your head. And the thing for you to do is to freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. But I won't delay much further in the conclusion, because I think I've really added everything that I wanted to add, and I've said a lot about these issues. But I do hope that you are enjoying these videos and getting as much out of these edifications as I am. Please feel free to go back to the website, which is www.betterhelp.com, to not just get the full article here, but to also get information on other very relevant and useful things. And no, I have not been paid to say anything that I'm saying on my videos. I'm saying it because I've used them, they're reliable, and I can trust their information. At the very least, if you are having some of these concerns or family problems, you can go seek help. You can go seek help yourself. But in truth, the best thing for you to do is probably just go freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy, even if you do have kids and have a family problem. The last thing you need is another child coming into your life. You think you got problems right now with your kids, they're teenagers. Add some twins to that. Add some twin toddlers to that and see how that really goes for you, right? And if you do, I want you to know you deserve exactly what you're getting. Because I'm being sarcastic, and what I'm telling you is a warning, not an actual invitation for you to go get somebody inseminated with twins. But indeed, as I mentioned, this is the end of the video. And I'd like to say, if you've enjoyed this content, please like it to demonstrate that you've enjoyed it. Also, please share this video with somebody who thinks they want to have a family, be the head of the family, and let them see exactly the type of problems that they're going to face when they are. I mean, this is horrific stuff, right? And finally, please leave a comment to remain part of the conversation. Perhaps I can try and convince you to not start your own family and live your life as I do, as a vasectomite and absolutely a bachelor for life. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, and I want to thank you again for spending time with me and your attention, and I appreciate it, and I always will. I'd like to take this moment to say, freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy, protect yourself, protect your seed, protect your solitude, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.